The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.
Welcome to How to Money with Cole and Cole.
I'm Cole.
And I'm Cole.
We coach people every day on their money and how to plan for the future.
As financial advisors, we're here to have an honest conversation on investing, retirement, and everything in between.
At Full Swing Financial Planning, we're here to empower you to take control of your plan, your way, for your financial future.
So let's talk money.
And sports.
Welcome back to How to Money with Cole and Cole. I am Bailey Ashbrook, sitting here with Cole Jaskey. And fire rapid question, Cole, who's the head coach of football, you or Luke?
Oh, Luke's definitely the head coach.
Oh, see, I thought, isn't it whoever runs the offense, the head coach?
No.
Took a first L last
Luke's
night.
given Luke's given the post-game talk. If you're giving the post-game talk, you're the head coach, and that was Luke.
For our listeners, my husband and Cole coach our 3rd and 4th grade football team. I think we mentioned it.
We were finishing. It was old school ball in the dark.
Oh my gosh, I was like, it was so dark. I was like, thank God I have my glasses. I'm so old.
It was good though. Yeah, we played a pretty good team. Boys got their butts whooped a little bit, but we had a few bright stars too in there. So there's a few things that it was fun. The boys.
A bright star was Kale turning on the Jets of the last. I don't care if you care or not, listeners. I was telling Cole this morning. I was like, Kale is his oldest in the same grade as mine. I said, Kale, I have never seen that kid move that fast. I was like in shock. Like he turned it on, made a little swift move and sprinted and scored. And I was like,
he was doing his 100-meter dash.
Yeah,
wasn't he?
Must get that from Chelsea.
Yeah, definitely not for me. So all my buddies would attest to that. So
okay, so we got 3rd, 4th grade football going on. Real quick, we have our Social Security event seminar October 9th. The only reason I remember the date because the best day in the world, 10/10. I was born the next day is the next day. I will not be at work, but Crossroads Center in Fort Dodge, Iowa. Free event, dinner.
Open to the public.
Thank you. Drinks. I think we already have 55 people RSVP.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. It'll be a really good night.
So go to our website if you're interested in that. www.fullswingfinancial.com. I'll make our producer who's nodding his head link it because I talk fast. But yeah, that's coming up. And Cubs, you're going to a Cubs game?
Well, it's supposed to. Don't jinx us here. Kale and myself and Cole P. and David, one of his boys, they invited us to go to the wild card game in Wrigley. It's supposed to be next Tuesday and Wednesday, but the season's not over yet. The Cubs are it's making
blocked
it close.
off on the calendar, so I thought it was official.
It's still a chance that the Cubs are in the playoffs for sure, but if they would happen to, they're only 2 games ahead of the Padres, and if the Padres would happen to jump them, then the wild card, they'd still play the Padres, but it'd be hosted in San Diego, not in Chicago. So pray.
Such a tomboy and such a
2
love
Cubs
sports.
wins. I think 2 Cubs, they lost again last night. I think they've lost 5 or 6 in a row. So kind of a bad time to be, dragging the plow here at the end of the season. So hopefully a couple wins this week and we'll seal it up. But that's the plan. I'm really excited. I've never been to a playoff.
That would be a good atmosphere.
Any major
professional
sport playoff game. So I take that
intensity.
back. One game I have. I've been to a Steelers Dolphins and it was negative 30 degrees. So never again.
Baseball's just so long, I lose it. You know what I mean? It's just hard to follow. But
it is kind of wild. It's still going.
Yeah.
Like you'll go through 2 different. We'll go through like 6 kids.
It loses its flame to me.
Yep.
But Indiana Fever upset. They're still in the WNBA playoffs. That's going strong. It's a lot going on. And we
can go into market talk. Market's been doing really, really well. So I don't want to jinx anything there, but. It's been a good fall just across the board. The weather's been nice. The weather's
it's warm for Iowa.
Yeah, super warm this week.
Don't forget, subscribe, share this episode because I think it will be impactful to many and it helps the algorithm and all those things that I don't deal with.
We want to share the message.
Yeah, and when you follow the page, I know that helps. But this episode, truly, let's get into it. And I can't wait for you guys to hear Eddie Thompson.
For the listeners, we have Eddie Thompson, founder and CEO of Thompson Associates. But we were just asking him off camera, what he considers his role. I said, "What are you? Formally, you're an estate planning attorney, but how would you describe what you do?"
I think we're educators. We obviously do planning, but the most important part of what we do is help people understand what are your options. Here's your circumstance. What is the smartest way to achieve your goals? And hopefully it's a process that's not rushed. So I want three things. I want people to learn something in the planning meeting, every planning meeting. I want them to feel something in every planning meeting. I think that's important too. And then I want them to do something. So many people anticipate, plan on, expect to do an estate plan. And it's amazing how few get around to it.
And I think when people, you told me this the first time we met, there's a lot of times when people hear the word estate planning, they think like really large dollar amounts, don't you? And that's probably a question we were going to come with, but I immediately went to that of like, estate planning is really, anyone should be thinking about that. Almost everyone should be thinking at some concept.
Yeah. You hear sometimes it's used, the phrase legacy planning, where to me, it's more about transferring your values than your valuables.
That's awesome.
Because
oh my gosh.
That's great.
That's the quote of the day already.
Well, when you think about it, what do we hope for our families? What do you hope for your children? It's that they have a good life. And a good life is not conditioned upon how much you have. It's who you are. It's what do you believe? What do you think? What shapes your thinking? And so for me, it's much more important to slow down and think about what really matters. And ultimately, for most of us, it's our children, or if you're fortunate enough, grandchildren. It's the love you have for them, and you've learned valuable lessons in life. That's why we ask people to do the letters, to share those values. Because if a person is willing to work hard and have integrity, they can achieve almost anything. There'll be the great thing about values, it's the difference in a strategy and a tactic. So a strategy is a goal, and how do I get there? What are the resources I need to get to that goal? A tactic is when you run into an obstacle, what do you do to get around it? And for a lot of us, we teach tactics in our families where we ought to be teaching strategy. What really matters. And ultimately, it comes down to relationships, doesn't it?
A lot of wisdom there. So,
I want something. What letter? I missed this. I know you spoke. What's the letter before we go any further on you?
Yeah, we encourage everybody to write letters to their children in their handwriting. And the letter's not about who's getting the microwave or crock pot. It's about what really matters in life. And so we ask them to do it in their handwriting, because I don't know if you've ever found something from a grandparent or a parent who's deceased, and it's in their hand. It might be a recipe, and the recipe has value, but the handwriting makes it more valuable. Mm-hmm. So we ask them to write a letter in their hand to their children. When they're done, they fold the letter, and they put it in an envelope with their children's name on it, and they'll not see the letter until they're gone.
And you do this with all the clients?
Every single planning client.
Wow.
If they have children.
We talked about it. Chelsea and I talked about it
this morning. I figured that.
Yep.
So I just wanted to. So your values estate planning, go a little deeper into that. And how did you start, or what led you to start Thompson?
Yeah, maybe take us back to the beginning.
Yes. And how you got, because obviously for our listeners, you can already hear the wisdom coming out of you, but I want to go a little back. Like, tell us how you got
was
here.
Was this Eddie Thompson with hair?
Yes.
Maybe back then.
Pre-grandkids.
There was a time I had long hair. I was an actual hippie, so.
My husband's got long hair right now, and people are like, the flow is flowing.
Yeah, it got to the point where it was embarrassing. It was really interesting, because my undergrad, I had a triple major, accounting, philosophy, and theology. And then I did a master's in theology. And then I did a master's in organizational development. I did my doctorate basically in tax. Mm-hmm. So I don't know where I was going. I just knew. You
were going to be well educated, though, wherever you were going to go.
I just knew that what has always driven me is why. And then where does asking questions lead you? Does it lead to an easy answer or a thoughtful answer? Sometimes they're both. But what I want to contribute is a real thoughtful deliberation of what's important and why it's important. And so I started the company. I went to work for a university. I worked at Vandy for a while. I did my doctorate at Vandy, and worked there for a while. Was university vice president for a number of years, and got into the fundraising. I ran external affairs for the university, and then taught in the MBA program for about 15 years. And I just felt like I was constrained. And I didn't feel like I was really helping people. I was helping organizations. And what I discovered, when it comes to philanthropy, people don't give to build buildings or endowments. They give to help people. Sometimes it takes a building. Sometimes it takes an endowment. And I came from a very, very poor family. And philanthropy has always been important in our family. For example, when my dad died, his total estate was $53,000. That was everything. The cars we had given him, everything. But when my dad found out that someone in our community, their child wanted to go to college and couldn't afford it, my dad would get in his 1952 Plymouth that he painted beige, and he was terrible at painting. There's ripples all down the side. And he'd drive around to farmers, and he'd drive around to business owners and say, Sally Smith's daughter wants to go to college. Would you give $100 a month?
That's powerful.
My dad sent 23 young people through graduate school.
The impact.
That's awesome.
The executive vice president of Pepperdine University was one of those kids. And when Dad died, it's fascinating. 21 of the 23 came back. And this has been decades after he had done that. So I asked my dad one time, I said, why do you do this? And what I discovered is that a philanthropist doesn't mean you're rich. So the word philanthropy comes from two Greek words, philo and anthropos, which is the love of mankind. And so I think what drives me to do what I do, what drove me to start the company, is I genuinely want to help people. To me, it is... it's the greatest gift in the world that I get to do this. I love what I do. I'm old and cranky, but I love these meetings. I love sitting down with especially young folks and say, you got young children. See, what are they, 4 and 9?
Yep.
Right, 4 and 9. What are they going to be like? And it's being shaped now. And so to me, it's not just getting a will or getting a trust, even though those are really valuable tools. It's how do you transfer what you've learned as being really valuable to the next generation? And I think we're missing that. I think this country is really struggling because we don't have meaning. Have you read the book, Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning?
No, but I will now.
So Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist in Europe, in Austria, and he spent 3 years in concentration camp. And as you know, if you know that history, just horrible experiences, and they became numb to death, pain, suffering, cruelty. It was just normal. They normalized what was not normal. And he makes the point in his book that what made the difference for him and for others who survived this and have survived it well were individuals who had love. They had someone they loved, and when he and his wife and his father went to the concentration camp at Auschwitz, he was taken to the right, which means those were the workers, and his wife and his father was taken to the left. And so they didn't survive the day. He didn't know that. And he said when he was being tortured, working in incredibly cold weather with no shoes, snows, building a railroad, that what kept him healthy mentally was his vision of his wife and his father, even though they were dead. And so he comes up with a new theory that really competes with what Freud came up with others, is that it's called logos therapy, where love is what makes us real, what makes us genuine. And I find that people, especially people that I get a chance to work with, people in the Midwest in particular. I don't know if you know this. If you had to raise a lot of money in the United States, and you draw a line from Duluth, Minnesota, down to San Antonio, Texas, most of the money given to charity in America is given in that corridor, 500 miles on either side.
Wow.
That's wild.
So why do I come to Fort Dodge?
Because we're here.
Yeah, it's because of you.
I'm just kidding.
This is a place in America where if a farmer gets sick, what do the other farmers do when it's harvest time?
Yep, they'll help him. You'll see someone else's combine out in that field. Multiple combines a lot of times. You'll see that.
And may not even know them.
And it's a powerful thing
Just
that
know
happens.
of them.
Yeah.
So this is a place in
Giving me
America-
chills thinking about that.
Yeah.
I've known multiple stories where people, it's always cool to see.
Well, this is a place in America where community still matters and where people still matter. And we were talking before we got on camera about trying to get a hotel room in Des Moines when there's a wrestling tournament or a basketball tournament. It's people in Iowa are different.
They have each other's back.
They do. And it's compelling. You want to be a part of that. And I feel sorry for the people who are bi-coastal and they fly back and forth and they look at cornfields and say there can't be much there. They have no idea.
The community and the connection.
The connection. And so how I got into this was backwards, but I got to thinking, what is the smartest way and the best way to help people when it comes to transferring values, but also their valuables? And so I had the accounting part, the tax part, but I had the philosophical and the theological part too, so I was kind of bifurcated between these two, and it seems like this career has brought the two together.
Do you believe, and I'm just listening, is that why you believe you're so successful, is because you're intertwining the two? Because I do feel like even in our world, the financial world, I think the emotional and the psychological side is just as important or more important to really build that plan, what you're doing for people. So maybe go into that, how you take that values-based approach and what does that look like and what do you do with your clients and where you're all located and all that.
Yeah, I think so. And I would say one of the things I love about his approach to investment advising is that he sees them as people, not money. It's not assets walking through the door. It's people come through the door.
It's their livelihood.
Exactly. And the other thing I would add is that one of the key ingredients to finding contentment, which is really a struggle for most of us, when are we content? I get asked frequently, well, you work with wealthy people. What does that mean? Who are wealthy people? Well, I worked with this guy 7 or 8 months ago now who's worth $1.1 billion. That's a lot of money. Billion's a lot of money.
The bees are up there.
Yeah. And so we were sitting there with his family at this big conference table. And his children were all very successful. I think the smallest estate was like 167 or something million.
There's a lot of dollars in that room.
A lot of money in that room. And so the dad was going to leave everything in his estate to charities. He had 10 charities he wanted to give to. And I said, do you want to make some intervivos gifts? Do you want to make some of these gifts now? He said, no. I said, well, what's your thinking on that? He goes, well, what if I run out of money? And his son, and he goes, Dad, you're worth $1.1 billion. Dad looked at him and said, you've never been broke before.
Strong.
And so wealth and contentment has almost nothing to do with what you own or your assets. It's in here.
People, one thing that makes me kind of uncomfortable is when someone comes and's like, well, I don't think I have enough to work with you, or I don't, right? And I'm sure you've like, well, I don't need an estate planning attorney. Yeah. Right. And it's like, well, let's have the conversation and see if we can help you. Because it's like not everyone's got to be a millionaire, to be a client of ours or for us to have a conversation. And maybe it's something that's, we're not directly going to get compensated on, but it's still the right thing to do. So, and I've tried to lead our team like that. And I think we've got everyone in our office is truly that way.
Well, one of the things I love about what you do is it's helping people find that sense of security. Because there's, again, the wealthy, it's amazing to me. You would think people who are wealthy are secure. I think if they were insecure before they became wealthy, they're probably still insecure.
You go with you.
Yeah, it's who you are, and it's how you see yourself.
Absolutely.
And what your circumstances are. But I think we can help them. I think one of the things that I love about what you bring to the table is a sense of helping this person not just to acquire more, because you're going to leave it all. I had someone asked me when a guy I had worked with who was in real wealth, in billions and billions. When he died, someone said, how much did he leave? I said, he left all of it. He left every bit of it. There's no glove compartment in the casket. There's no trailer hitch on a hearse.
It's all being left behind.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so what really is most important, when you think about those you've lost, it's not their financial status or what they did for a career. It's who they were.
Powerful. Let's transition a little bit, Eddie.
Yeah.
How I bet there's going to be some people thinking, how did Eddie Thompson get in
Yes.
Fort Dodge, Iowa, sitting doing a
How'd Cole
podcast
J?
with Bailey and myself? So talk
our
a little bit
kindness.
of your transition of you've talked a lot about your philosophy, which I think we could go in all day of the values based approach, and it's very correlated with what we're trying to emulate. Obviously, you've been doing it for much longer, and things that take us like how you got to here, or got to this point, and your affiliation with our local area.
Well, first of all, I was invited to come. I was working with Allen Hospital in Waterloo, which is part of the Unity Point system, then Iowa Health System. And I was invited to come and speak here, and next thing I know, they wanted to engage, and that's been 20 years. I've been coming to Fort Dodge 20 years. And I love coming here. I think, and I love helping the hospital, because healthcare is, it's a blessing and a curse if you work in healthcare. Those poor people, you can't always satisfy people. You go to the hospital and you're grumpy. At least I always was. I don't know about you.
No one wants to go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they're trying to provide service when their reimbursements just keep dropping. And hospitals, or healthcare in general, is struggling financially. And so it's easy to be critical. What I love about Fort Dodge is, I'm sure there's some of that. I'm sure there are those who are critical of the hospital. It's a good hospital. These are good people who genuinely care. And so, I want to help there too. And one of the things they need are financial resources, because they're getting less and less. They're having to do more and more with less and less. It's not a great pattern for success. But they're struggling with it, working on it, trying to do a better job. And so when they invited me to come, I guess 20 years ago, I told them they would be my last client, because I love coming to Fort Dodge. I love the people here. I love the people in healthcare here, but I love the people.
So for our listeners, explain what your process is, or what you do for charities and charitable giving. I think that the foundation, like if someone is like, okay, Eddie is a man of wisdom right now, but what is he doing to really, move the needle for people in that value-based approach? What would you tell them?
Well, I have basically 3 objectives. Number 1, to make sure they have enough to live on the rest of their life. That's more of an emotional response than it is a financial response. And that's where we typically get investment advisors in to help quantify what they have. Second question is, what's the smartest way to give to our heirs? And that's the naughty question for most parents. How much is too much? What if I have an evil son-in-law, or what if I have a child with an addiction, or a grandchild with an addiction? Giving a huge amount of money at one time is almost always destructive. Giving large unearned income seldom is a good thing. So how do you do this, where you have children you love or grandchildren you love? How do you sprinkle out income over a period of time where it doesn't damage them? It gives them an opportunity to grow. When Cheryl and I had young children, I'd gone to college 12 years.
It's a little bit.
I mean, we had hamburger without hamburger. Hamburger help without hamburger, and tuna fish without tuna fish. I remember one Sunday, Cheryl was fixing a meal for our company. We invited another couple over to the house, and she took. She would die if she knew I was doing it.
Well, we'll make sure to send her the link.
Yeah, please do. That'll cause a divorce after 52 years. So remember, if you fry bologna with a ring on it, it curls up.
Mm-hmm.
So she took some bologna and she fried it, and it curled up. She put mashed potatoes in the middle, and sprinkled green peas on it. And that was a luxury for us. I know that sounds crazy. Yeah, and it was delicious. We had nothing, and when we needed money, we didn't have it. Now, Cheryl and I are fortunate. We've been really blessed. And so the question becomes, should we start giving some of what we're going to leave our children now? Should we start making blended gifts to our heirs when they need it, but not too much? Because I don't want, we learned our most valuable financial lessons when we were poor,
Absolutely.
not when we were rich.
When you're grinding through
Yes. And
Just like the billionaire you said you'd never, you've never been broke before, right?
And it's that emotional thing. And I want my children, I don't want to rob them of consequences, especially financial consequences. There are great lessons to be learned in struggle. And so I don't believe in giving heirs too much.
So how do you do that then when you want to leave a gift but you don't want to enable the behavior? Because I say this to Cole, money's emotional, like it touches everything. That's like our job is just as much therapy as it is running the numbers. So how do you do that then? Or what kind of questions do you ask people when you're going through this process? Because I agree, like I feel like, most millionaires are self-made. Most people appreciate it more when it's earned versus giving, and you don't want to enable that behavior or take that away. So how do you do that?
So I think, first of all, understanding why this happens. And I think it's very difficult to get wealth or a company into the third generation. It is really hard.
We did a statistic on this. It's
Yes,
like
we talked about this once. Yeah.
Some to none.
So what you got is circumstances where mom and dad are creating a business, let's say, and they're struggling, and the kids are sitting at the dinner table hearing mom and dad struggle. And while they're hearing these lessons on struggle, they're learning. They're learning from what mom and dad are experiencing, because they're experiencing it too. And then the second generation takes this wealth or company, whatever it is, and they build on it, using some of the wisdom they learned from their parents sitting around that table. The third generation knows wealth. Mm-hmm. They don't know struggle. They don't know the consequences of some of these decisions. And so that's why it's really difficult to get into the third generation. So the way we approach it, see if I can explain this without drawing it. So there's three ways you can leave assets to heirs. You can give it to them outright. My parents' generation gave everything to heirs equally and outright at the second death. Just give it to the kids. Mm-hmm. Well, if our kids are going through any type of financial litigation, let's say they're in a car wreck and they're sued, or they're in trouble financially, whatever you give your heirs outright can be taken from them. And in some places, even through divorce, they can be taken, state-specific. The second way to give to heirs is to give them income, where they get so much money each year for a period of time until they reach the age of financial maturity, whatever that is. The third way to do it is to set money aside, and you make lump sum payments out of this bucket of money when there's a triggering event. It might be that they go to college. It might be they buy a house, or they turn 16. For example, Cheryl and I, when our granddaughters turn 16, we buy them a safe car. Because I guess I should be out for our grandsons too, but I just thought about that. Probably wasn't fair. But I don't want their car to break down on the side of the road. I'm not too worried about the boys. I am worried about our granddaughters, and my daughter. I was worried about her. And so instead of just doing one of these buckets, we say, why not look at doing all three? So think about how much at your death do you want to go to your children outright, knowing those dollars are at risk? And how much would you like set aside in this account that pays them income every year until maybe they reach age 50? Then all those funds are shifted over into this lump sum bucket, and they get a lump sum at 55, 60, 65, and then maybe all of it goes out dispersed at 65 when they might need it the most for retirement or long-term care. So we try to get people to slow down and think in terms of dollars. How much would you want to, if you think about, for my children who have been very successful, whatever we leave them is not for needs. It's for more. It's for more. I don't know what it is, but it's, how much am I willing to pay for them to have a new car every year? And so I think getting people to slow down and think about what is the most appropriate thing per child. So being equal is not always fair.
I was thinking this exact. Yeah. We have this a lot with farm families,
yes,
right? Where it's like there's son A is the farmer, B and C are not involved, and I think it's important for people that are listening to this to know that it's okay to have that conversation per child,
yes,
right? Because each one's different situation, different relationship, and the family dynamic. It doesn't need to be that classic third.
And I would say that's most
Yeah, most people default to the third.
Yes.
They just they don't want to have the,
Tough
they haven't had that
conversations.
tough conversation. Like, we'll just leave it equal.
And the other thing I would say is that it's really important to, once you've established a plan, to bring the family together.
I
And-
100%
I wanted to ask
thank
about
you.
this too.
Without the
yes.
in-laws.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I've been involved in, I remember it wasn't that long ago I was deposed by 37 attorneys for 3.5 days over a family fight of money. For money.
That sounds like fun.
It's just ridiculous. There's no excuse for that. And every time I've been involved in any kind of litigation, it's always the in-laws who start it. It's not usually the heirs. And they'll say things like, why did your dad give that to him or to her? And it starts with that planting a seed. I remember when my dad died, we'd interned him. We interned him 50 miles away from where he was living currently. And we came back from the internment, and my brother-in-law had a U-Haul trailer backed up to my dad's shop and was taking his tools out. Now, if my redheaded sister had pulled in and seen her brother-in-law taking her daddy's tools, the fire would have started. And even though my dad said he could have them, he was just trying to save him a trip. He said, it saves me 5 hours. I understood that. I just said, this is not the time. It's things like that start fights, and it's almost always the in-laws. So bring your family together and say, this is what we're going to do. Here's our reasoning. Anybody want to talk about it? And that doesn't
Almost like an annual meeting
Absolutely.
of reviewing the assets
Yep.
and here's my plan.
Yep.
I feel like that translates when you have that conversation, and you know better than me, is this is our money. It's a gift. It's a blessing. It's our responsibility. And this is what you could get. And this is our values. And this is what we want you to do. Are those the conversations you're saying? Like,
Yep.
kind of projecting like, hey, we do have these funds, or this is how I want to leave my assets, but I'm only leaving them if, you know what I mean? Or like
that's the tough part.
stipulations.
I think, Eddie, and maybe you're kind of getting
Yeah.
onto this. There's a lot of, I want to say the older generation,
Yes.
very private, right? And they don't a lot of times. In I would use this in the farm world a lot. One, they don't, and I deal with a lot of farm families, and I'm pretty
Yes.
versed in that. Is like, they just don't want to disclose all the things sometimes too, which is fine. I'm sure there's ways to do it without disclosing numbers, but I think
transparency is clear.
Yeah. I guess how do you handle because I'm
or what
sure,
would you tell someone
Yeah.
who's thinking about these conversations?
Well, one is I think it's important that they understand reasoning, what's behind it.
Yep.
I got 3 children. Our oldest son is very wealthy. He started businesses, and it's really grown. He doesn't need anything. Our second son, investment advisor, is doing well, that world. My daughter is an accountant making money, but not making what the other 2 are. So we're treating her a little bit differently. And plus, she's pretty involved in the ministry we believe in. So what I've discovered is that values and character tend to remain within a family. If you got a dysfunctional family, future generations have a real opportunity to be dysfunctional. If you have a philanthropic family, they tend to be philanthropic. So our children know that all of our estate's going to charity when we die. They've known that from day one. I've told them, here's your inheritance. Go out and earn it. You had a good education. We taught you how to work hard. We taught you what's valuable in life. Go do it. Go earn it.
And I just think about how fulfilling their life will be because of that.
I got an email last night. A text from my middle son last night saying,
The middle child.
yeah, he's saying, Dad, I can't tell you how much. I get choked up thinking about this. How much I love you and how much you've helped shape me. And now I have my family. And he had a picture of his wife and his 2 boys in their bed watching TV. And I thought, man,
powerful.
that's success.
I've never cried on the podcast, but today might be the first. Cole won't cry, but I will.
That's success.
And I don't, and you know this, and we'll get back to it, but that's something money can't buy.
Can't buy it.
You can't, yes, you can leave your kids money, but, and I'm going to ask you this as a parent, like, how do you really instill those values in your kids? Is it just them watching? Is it conversations? Or from your experience, how do you feel like as a parent and now a papa, like how have you instilled that in your son for him to send that text message?
I A great wife, obviously. And mother.
Cheryl with the baloney.
Cheryl's the one everybody loves in our family.
I know the feeling, Eddie.
Yeah.
You met my wife.
Yeah, that's right.
You've met my wife. Everyone loves my wife, too.
Yeah, you succeeded there. So I think it begins when they're young. So when our boys, we didn't get Jess until later, but our boys, when every time I got paid, they got a certain, we talked about this morning, got a certain amount of money just because they're part of the Thompson family. Didn't have any chores or whatever. But as part of the Thompson family, they had responsibilities. One is you make your bed before you go to school. Now, you don't have to make it, but someone's going to make it, and you're going to pay them for it. And so little brother got this amount of money, mom got this amount of money, and I was expensive. and then you don't have to, Cheryl's a good cook, but we thought if Cheryl did the cooking that we ought to do the cleaning. And you didn't have to. If you want to go do something with your friends, that's fine, but you got to pay someone to do it.
Wow.
Because if I can change oil in a car, I can fix brakes. If I don't want to, I got to pay someone to do it. So I start teaching the value of resources, and that if there's things you can do, and you don't have to do it, but there are consequences. So there's consequences in almost every aspect of life. It's true in the financial world too. And then I would pay so much for a pair of tennis shoes. If you wanted something, like our oldest son had a real desire for some of these
Nikes.
I don't know what they were.
Specialized shoes. I know exactly what you're getting.
I wouldn't pay him that, and I'd pay the $50, and if he wanted anything above that, he could pay for it. But and then when they turned 12, I bought them lawnmowers and a 5-gallon jug for gas. So it's interesting, when our middle son was a senior in high school that year, he had, I think, 5 trucks. I have no idea how many Skag mowers he had and weed eaters, and he employed almost all the other defensive players on the football field, and he netted $47,000 that senior year in high school.
That's awesome.
So
pretty good side hustle for a kid, right?
What I hear you saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is don't steal consequences from your kids.
Don't do it.
And I think I don't know if you guys, Dr. Henry Cloudy always talks about that, like let people have consequences. And like you were saying, like if you give someone with an addiction money, you're only going to enable that addiction. Same concept. Like if you don't let kids have problems.
Yep.
And that seems like you've taught that through your value-based parenting as well.
Yeah. We've had, our boys were a handful. I mean, I guess all boys are. I guess girls too.
I can attest to the boys.
Yeah,
I was thinking of Canton.
You have no idea yet, my
Yep.
friend's coming. But I think that love disciplines too, and it doesn't spare them from consequences. Mm-hmm. They got to learn it. I'd rather them learn it in our home than in a
safe
somewhere.
place.
Yeah.
Yep.
There are consequences.
This podcast is produced by Spin Market and Digital. Located in Fort Dodge, Iowa, Spin Market's highly skilled team can help you increase your market by updating your website, improving SEO, designing advertisements, and producing podcasts that will grab the attention of your market. Contact Spin Market today for all your digital marketing needs at digitalagent@spinmarket.com or call us at 515-302-8026. And to learn more, visit our website at www.spinmarket.com. That's digitalagent@spinmarket.com or 515-302-8026. Or visit our website at www.spinmarket.com.
Okay, so if someone listening, I'm just kind of changing gears here. Mm-hmm. Charitable giving, the impact not only that has on who they're giving to, but the emotional impact, because you said, your money's going to charity or assets, whatever. Talk through that, like the impact of charitable giving in your planning.
There's the phrase, it's more blessed to give than receive. And the word blessed means what? Happy. Mm-hmm. And it's true. I mean, have you ever done something for someone who couldn't do it themselves, and they thanked you and you walked away and you felt really good about it? So there's the emotional sides of philanthropy, but there's also the practical side. Most people in Iowa would rather some of what's called social capital in the tax code. These are dollars where you earn an income. You owe a tax on that income. You can defer it by putting it in a qualified plan. Whenever that money comes back out, it's a taxable event. So my question is, would you rather some of what you have go to charity or the IRS? Now, you have that option. Most people don't know that. And so for us, encouraging philanthropy is to say, look, these are dollars you can't give to your kids. There's no way you can. It's got to be used to benefit society. What's the smartest way to do that? Now, I think is to keep it local. Mm-hmm. We send an awful lot to D.C. or Des Moines. Why not keep some of it here to, to help the schools around here or the hospital or any type of charitable organization? So I think for most people, especially in the Midwest, especially in Iowa, do you know Iowa is the most generous state in the United States?
I believe it, though.
It is.
The Iowa way, I always think of that.
Really?
We're just...
It is. And go back to this sense of community and wanting to help people belong. And so my point is, number one, the tax laws are written to incentivize people making a gift. So you have a choice. You can send it to Washington, D.C. or keep it local. And what % of your listeners would rather it go to D.C.?
Probably zero.
Yeah, I was like, if you're watching, I put zero on my hand.
It's 3%.
Is that really? Yeah.
They don't know they can do it, and they don't know how to do it.
Yep.
But these are conversations, and we talk with clients, but obviously you specialize. These are things, and I'm a big advocate, like start having these conversations and visualize what you're going to do with your assets. I mean, me and Cole are younger. Like, I already think this through full circle, like, what responsibility was I gifted with, and now how can I go impact people around me that I care about?
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, I do. I've had this thought that I want to share, because you made this. We've seen a lot of how your family's kind of how you're raised. It's if you're a charitable family, a lot of times you're going to raise into a charitable generations on and on and on. And that was one thing I would say. Bailey and I both have wild backgrounds, wild families. We come from both great families, but not the most stable at times. And I think we've both made it a point with our children of like
intentionality.
We're changing our family dynamic
cycle
of gifting, like the certain things that, values that we're instilling. And I made that, I was like thinking that's where, when we were sitting down today, is like, that's an important thing, is like, I want to have relationships with my children when that's like a super important thing to me. And not that I don't have with my parents. I mean, it's just not what I would envision, like how I want it to be, is that's what that's how I've tried to parent and hopefully make those decisions on parenting, along with wealth and being, giving to charities and different things of source. But
some of the best parents had bad parents.
Yep.
So I think about my wife, who grew up in I think if you looked up the word dysfunctional in the dictionary, their family picture would be in there. They were chaos was not even the right word. And I asked her one time, they drugs and just everything you can think of that's dysfunctional. And I said, Cheryl's never taken a drink, never smoked a cigarette, never cussed.
Cheryl's a saint.
No, I'm telling you, you have no idea. And I said, so what happened? She said, some people rebel against good. Some people rebel against bad. And so she made a decision that she was going to break that cycle, and she has.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Well, Eddie, as we, this has been awesome.
I could talk to you all day.
We could do this all day. We're gonna just finish with a couple rapid fire questions. Okay. First one, best resource, or maybe
book.
Someone's thinking about planning, estate planning, giving. Is there a resource or a podcast or something you'd recommend? Obviously, talk to Eddie Thompson, but other than that, something you'd recommend?
Well, it's now mostly online, so you can go to a community foundation, you can go to a charity and sit down and talk with them. I think what I would do if before I start looking for resources, I'd sit down, I'd sketch it out. Start with what you want to accomplish, then find people to help you figure out how to do that. And you know what? Do you know that 75% of charitable dollars that come from strategy come from investment advisors,
Oh, wow.
not from the nonprofits.
Huh.
It's
I did
you
not
all.
know that.
I did
It
not
is-
know
It
that.
is you all. You lead more charitable giving than any other profession, including fundraisers.
It's definitely
Yeah,
become
you're
more,
tooting
as
our
I've gotten
horn.
more tenured and
Yes.
I've sit on some foundations, it's much more a part of my talk track with clients of like, you know, especially when you know people are very comfortable or
Right.
very well off and they're exploring what else is out
Right.
there for them to be fulfilled or maybe have an impact on. So, all right, one piece of advice for someone just thinking, getting started with their estate plan, kind of piggybacks on that first one, but you probably answered this question. But one piece of advice:
Trust your instincts. What is the right amount and the type of assets to give to heirs? You know your children better than anybody else does. You can't go an attorney and ask an attorney to tell us what to do. Start with what you know and design your own plan. Get information to do it, but design your own plan.
That's so good.
Yeah, you're just wise, Eddie. Last one? What's one common myth about charitable giving or estate planning, or something you hear most frequently?
That it costs family. I don't want to take money away from my children. And I go back to this point I made a few minutes ago. You're taking money from the government to give to charity, not from your family. However, two quick statistics. 36% of baby boomers, my generation, do not plan to leave any inheritance to heirs.
How much? What was
1
that?
in 3.
Wow. I can see
36%.
that though.
I can too. I see it every day.
I see it in meetings. They're like,
Yep.
47% don't plan to leave the majority. And so what are your options? You got family, IRS, charity. Take away family. I mean, the charities ought to be
top.
eating this up.
Yeah.
Yep. That's awesome. Powerful, Eddie. Thank you so much again
Eddie,
for your
yeah.
time.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Well, Eddie, your time is so valuable. I selfishly could talk about
Thank
you and listen to you all day. I know you said you're building a podcast room. I will be tuning into whatever you're talking about all the time. So we greatly appreciate your time. I know Cole greatly appreciates everything you've done for him so far. So failing to prepare is preparing to fail. John Wooden.
You've been listening to How to Money with Cole and Cole, the podcast of Full Swing Financial Planning. To learn more, visit their website at www.fullswingfinancial.com and follow them on Facebook and LinkedIn.
For now, I'm Cole,
I'm Bailey.
And I'm Cole.
and we'll see you on the greens. 4!
Security and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.